we've moved back to the UK, having lived in Canada for 15 years and having a very peaceful life, dealing with a house that's problem free, and now walking into a cesspit of issues. We bought the house because we loved the character of what it, visually on the outside, what it looked like. And then, so lo and behold, moving into it, then we've realized, it's been pieced together in different generations. I think the first segment of the house, which was Victorian, built in 1891. And then all the homeowners since then have been adding extensions and new pipe work, new electrical work, all sorts of things going on. And us being incredibly naive and dependent on the trades have been messed around. We've had some very horrible situations in the last year with travelers. We didn't even know what travelers were, and they've basically taken money of us, done a runner. But now we're in a situation, plumbing and central heating issues, and we've had eight plumbers in here who are all quote unquote experienced, and no further forward, and now we're in an awkward situation. So any help you can provide or advice or point us in the right direction of a person that's worthwhile connecting with would be great. So I think I'll start with is walking you through the property. Tell you what's been happening over the last year and a half or so, and you can keep interrupting me, asking me as billions of questions as you want.
All right. Okay. Well, if you know where you're going with this, so let's just see how far we can get without interrupting you, because that'd be interesting anyway.
So I am going to go to the front door. So obviously there's the front door of the property. You walk into the property and hallway. By the way, I'm not completely sure where the new and the old part of the house is. So there's the hallway. It goes into, this is a cloakroom. I'll just open up. There's a cloakroom, toilet, sink. That goes into where is my so-called office. And in there is a closet and in that closet is a combi backseat boiler.
Yeah, we know the one.
With a megaflow, which was recently installed. And then some, again, I'm really ignorant with this stuff. I think those are zone valves that I'm pointing to. And I don't know what that is. I think that's a manifold of some sort.
That's a pump. It's a bit above it is a manifold. Yeah,
manifold.
Like, that's got underfloor heating on it, hasn't it?
Yes, well done. So everything on the left side of that hallway. So basically, I'm going to reverse back. Everything pretty much on the right hand side has got rads.
That's the old building.
Rads there. This section of the floor that I'm hovering my hand over has underfloor heating, meaning wet underfloor heating.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, if I go back about 12 to 16, 18 months ago, we noticed two things. The pressure on that boiler, that combi boiler, kept dropping every day.
Yeah. Okay.
Every 2 days, every 1 day. And then and we also noticed around the same sort of time, this wall, at the base of that wall, there was some wet patches appearing, and the wallpaper was starting to peel off, and the same on that section. So what we did is we got someone in to just take off the floor panels. Obviously, the wall was pretty wet, and that concreted area there was soaking wet. And you can see there's a hodgepodge of pipe work, connections, push fits. I don't understand any of this stuff. But anyway, it was all there. And so then we contacted a company called UK Leak Detection. They came in, they put tracer gas through the system. They used thermal imaging. So they pinpointed that pressure loss in the boiler that's behind that wall now. Down to the heat exchanger in that boiler, because they picked up the tracer gas coming out the flue pipe of that boiler. Okay. We called Baxi in, they changed the heat exchanger. And by the way, every plumber that came in through this front door at that time said, no way, it's unlikely to be the heat exchanger, impossible. Anyway, we contacted Baxi, got them out, changed the heat exchanger, problem went away. nice stable pressure. However, that wall continued to be wet. And around that time also, this area was just absolutely soaking wet. And what we found is on the other side of that wall, which I'm going to walk around, go back into that closet. If I lift this bit of carpet up, you'll see connections there. You see all sorts of connections buried into the concrete, into the groundwork.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And then one of those connections, this copper pipe here, which I'm trying to point to, that was literally pushed out slightly and was just spooling out water. And this was going on, God knows for how long, maybe weeks, maybe months continuously. Yeah. So a plumber could hear it. He kept excavating this total area. He found that. He pushed it back in. Obviously, it stopped spooling out water, and it took months. And it's still not fully dry, but it's a hell of a lot drier than it used to be, that area behind that wall now.
Yeah.
So that's one problem that we think we've solved. Although this wall along here and this chimney breast here, this entire chimney which wraps around the kitchen, that wall is soaking wet. If I get one of those 2-ping meters, it just screams wet. So that entire thing wrapping around is soaking wet right now. I don't know how far up, but if I go up about 0.5 meter to 3/4 of a meter, it's still soaking wet. And that is relatively dry. That area is relatively dry. Maybe the ground there, down there where I'm pointing, where you can see some of the pipe work. And if I take this tile away from here, you can see all sorts of push fits. I mean, you can see generations of different things being added to this house.
Yeah, I can see that they use different push fit connectors in each section. So that suggests that each one had their favorite one. But okay.
So that's something of, I would say, the past. Now, getting to the matter at hand is this side of the house, as I'm walking in, is fed by a system boiler, which I'm walking into the closet where there's a system boiler up here and an expansion tank. And above there is a mega flow. And so what's going on this side of the house is fed by that. Now, I don't know where the delineation point is. You know, where does that system boiler service stop? Does it stop, along this wall, or does it go into the kitchen? Because the kitchen tile area there has underfloor heating, a wet underfloor heating system. And the bathroom here has a wet underfloor heating system as well. Yeah. There are also these weird, I would call them, I don't know what they're called, thermostats or something. There's 2 of them that I know of in the house. Yeah. See what that is?
Yeah, okay. Inside that cupboard, there's just move to the right of that Danfoss now. In there, no, sorry, you've gone too far. Sorry. Left a bit there. What's that with the writing on it? The panel with the writing on it?
Oh, that's just that's for the fuse boards. That's for those fuse boards.
That's a fuse board. Fine. Okay. So there's not a manifold in there. So
that is there's one of them there, and there's one in the bathroom. The one in the bathroom, I think, controls what's going on with the underfloor heating in the bathroom. This one, if I turn that knob to any setting, I can't say that I've noticed any difference of anything going on in the house. Yeah. So whether that's dead or alive, I honestly don't know. Now, the issue that we have at the moment for the last 4 weeks is that this boiler is losing pressure. It started off as once a day, became twice a day. Now we're at 4, 5, 6 times a day losing pressure. And I can go from a pressure of, if I set that to 2 bars, which I normally don't, but if I set it to 2 bars, it'll be down at 0 in 3 hours.
Is it go down to 0 without you actually running the heating, or is it only when you run the heating? In other words,
either. So if I set it to 2, turn off the boiler at this switch here, go to sleep. In the morning, it'll be at 0. If I did that during the day, did the same thing, turned it off, waited, it would take about 3 hours, and that gauge would go from 2 down to 0.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a company come out last week, same company, UK leak detection. They did their full imaging, tracer gas, and what they thought this was the smoking gun was this rad cast iron radiator. Obviously, there's some valves were connected to it, and they could pick up tracer gas coming out of that bleed valve and the nut. They said it's screaming tracer gas coming out of that nut. I've never ever noticed any water coming out from any of these ports, even trickling out slightly. Never. He said for us to eliminate that, you need to remove that rad, cap off the pipes, and then we'll come back in. Little did I realize that these guys charge that £500 fee every single time they want to come back into your house.
This is where are these people situated? North London?
I don't remember UK leak detection, but there's a company coming out tomorrow called ADI Pro Leak. They're in High Wycombe. I booked them because my wife and I are at complete loss at this point, not knowing what to do, scrambling for help, and no one to be either experienced or willing to help. So we eliminated that, and still the leak, the pressure loss,
is going.
Yeah, we've obviously done obvious things like check all the bleed valves. They've obviously done that as well, but I can't say that I have the warm and fuzzy feeling that these guys know what they're doing. I think they're just trying to get as much money out of people as they can. And so what else? Any other facts? Well, this, again, you're going to laugh at this, but this thing, I guess this is a Honeywell manifold.
Motorized valve.
Motorized valve was sitting, hang on, let me just back out here a little bit and I'll explain. This was installed, this was installed about here. About 3 weeks ago, I had one of the 8 plumbers who came here and said, okay, well, let's put in leak sealer because that might work. He put in 1 dose of leak sealer. Within minutes of him leaving, that gauge up at the top dropped at an astronomical rate. It was just dropping really quickly. And then I called him. He came back a few hours later, and he said all he did is he was manipulating that lever there. He said he doesn't see what the purpose of this is. He's going to take it out. When he disconnected it from this box here on the right, he took the thing out, he capped it off, as you see at the top and the bottom, and it was completely, the inside of that pipe was completely dry, and it was filled with this stuff. So he said, clearly this wasn't doing anything. It was just sitting there. It was redundant. So I don't know if people are doing things without realizing what they're doing. And there's so many interconnecting pipes and spaghetti. So anyway, I think at this point, I'm just going to be quiet and let you ask.
Well, no, I think, you know, there is a lot going on there. And it seems, you know, as you say, you've had a catalogue of problems. You get one after another.
The thing we have, I mean, the one thing we totally dislike about the system in this house is that we've got a combi boiler over there. We've got a system boiler over here. The system boiler is not very efficient. It's probably, I don't know, 60 or 70% efficient. Our energy costs are really not great at all. It would be great if the whole house, the entire house, had one system boiler with that mega flow. But now ripping up all floors, consolidating all underfloor heating circuits and rads would be, I would assume, into the multiple thousands to no end. So and the first problem we have to deal with immediately is get this thing working, because I can't keep waking up every 2 or 3 hours topping up the boiler. So what I do at night is I top it up and I just turn off the boiler because and then when it's freezing cold during the day, I repressurize it and turn it on. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
That isn't actually a system boiler you got there.
My apologies. Yeah.
No, that's all right. Somebody told you it was, or maybe, but that is an older boiler, what we call a heat-only boiler.
Got it. Okay.
and what they've done is they've put a pressure vessel on there, which is up on the right where you showed me.
That expansion vessel.
Yeah, so that's the expansion vessel. Yeah, absolutely. Now that has been cobbled in, as you can see, not brilliantly done, but it's there, and there's a pressure relief valve which is going down on the right hand side of the boiler there. There's a pipe going through the wall just there. You've got it. That pipe going through the wall. Yep. Can you see that outside the house?
Yes, I can, and there's nothing dripping from it,
and it's absolutely dry. Always dry. Yeah,
always dry. I actually ended up putting a Ziploc bag at the end of it and leaving it there for about a week, and nothing collected into it.
That's it. That's what I usually just get a balloon or something like that, put it over it, and if it fills with water or you get any water in there, you know that's where the pressure loss is coming from. So it's definitely not coming from there, and it seems that the only possible way that you can be losing pressure is somewhere under the floor again. There's some kind of a leak, but this is intriguing. Where he took that pipe, where he took that motorized valve out.
Yeah.
There's some writing on the wall there. What is that writing?
Okay, so that one says underfloor heating. That one there, and it's got a label on it as well. That one behind that pipe says existing house.
Oh, okay.
And so that was where this motorized valve was sitting in this section, and right behind that it says existing house.
Yeah.
And this one here, this valve says new extension.
Yeah.
And what does that say? That says flow to extension up and downstairs.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So that's there. So the arrow's on that. So we know that is going down to go up, if you like. So that's doing. So have you still got radiators on? What's this one say? Motorized valve for hot water. That's fine. That's all right. That's doing your cylinder. You see, this is the great thing is that when somebody does take the time to label these things up, at least it gives you a fighting chance of getting somewhere with it. But
and there's a label something there that pump to bypass.
Bypass. Yeah, I saw that on the thing. So that's okay. That's nothing. That just means that if the motorized valves and the underfloor heating system are shut down, there's still something going round just to clear the water from the boiler to stop. They were notorious, these little boilers, for cutting out when they overheated. So they probably put that in, but that isn't solving your pressure loss problem at all.
Maybe a few more facts, and
absolutely.
May or may not help. So this bathroom was renovated about a year and a half ago, and when that was done, a rad that was, if I remember, was floor mounted pipes coming out the floor. The pipe work was redirected to go up the wall and out. So that rad comes out the wall. So the pipe work comes out from the wall. So is it possible, conceivable, that the soldering wasn't done the way it should be done? Maybe the pipe work is leaking there. I don't know. The floor, even though this is porcelain, it seems fine. It's sitting on a concrete base. I sent a picture to Dylan and yourself maybe an hour ago.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but it seems fine. Obviously, if that boiler's working during the day, in the morning and in the evening, this thing is warm to walk on because it's timed. This radiator and that underfloor heating is timed on that circuit. Then in this room, which is our bedroom, behind that, this closet wasn't there when we renovated. Behind there was a window. Under the window, there was a radiator. And we basically killed that radiator to put a closet in, and the pipe work was redirected from that direction to add a rad there. This rad was always there. That rad was added, basically. Yeah. So could it be that maybe some of the pipe work was a bodge-up job was done? Maybe soldering. I don't know. I really don't know.
Are we upstairs or on the ground floor here?
We're on the ground floor, matey, but I can go upstairs. I'm happy to do that.
No, that's fine. No. I'm just asking because that would suggest, I mean, when you say about the leak, I was thinking, well, if it's upstairs, you would see something. So if it's downstairs, it could be leaking under the floor and you wouldn't know anything about it. That's the
Yeah,
point.
I mean, what blows my mind, if it's 4 weeks, well, it's probably 4 or 5 weeks, but let's say 4 weeks of constant leak, topping up, starting at once a day to twice, and now we're at 4 or 5 times a day. You'd assume you'd get some wet patches somewhere. The floorboards might start to buckle a little bit. Absolutely. You'll notice something, and you absolutely notice diddly. The only things I notice is where these floors, where the joints are, they're starting to open up a bit, because this entire wooden floor area everywhere was sanded down, and an oil-based lacquer was applied to it, and obviously the sawdust gets in between and closes up all those joints. But now some of those joints are starting to open up, like there and over here. Well, are those clues? I don't know.
Yeah, that's generally a very good clue, but it's actually suggests that things are drying out rather than wetting up, if you like, because obviously if you've had leaks in the past and they've been under the floor, and it may have, the moisture levels have risen under the floor, and now if things are drying out, then the floor, you would start to see gaps. But certainly if it was damp, those joints would be very tight. You wouldn't.
Yeah. The other things I've noticed is there, the paintwork starting to crack a little bit there, where it maybe 2 or 3, 4 mils above where the skirting is.
Sure.
In this bedroom, which is right next to obviously that bathroom, when they put the skirtings, they put chalk, or I don't know, silicone or chalk right underneath.
Yeah.
Because I assume the skirting didn't butt up right to the floor. And now you can see all this stuff if you look carefully.
That quite honestly, that does happen, and there's painters, what we call painters cork there, which is good stuff, and the stuff which is 99 pence a tube, which doesn't really expand, it doesn't stretch very well. So if they use that, there's a better one, a Dunlop one, which will take a bit of movement, but that's not unusual to see that stuff pulling away and splitting. Just as the building dries out, just as the building moves. I'm thinking there's not a lot going on there moisture-wise. I don't want to depress you, Charles, but I think you probably already know. You're probably already depressed enough with it anyway. But what I look, when I see that, and I see all those pipes buried, push fit buried under the concrete, that is just the first bit you showed us, just a complete mess. And it just seems like you say it's been added to, and people haven't labelled it. They haven't told you what's going on. So everybody who comes in there, they're faced with the same problem of they've got to work out what's going on. And I think you may have had some well-meaning plumbers in there, quite honestly, who came in there thinking they might be able to solve the problem. Like myself, I love to try and get to grips with a problem and solve it. I want to be that hero, but sometimes you're in there and you're wasting the customer's money in that case, and in the end they can't do it. They're defeated by it, and they just think, I've got to go, I've got to start earning some money and doing something I can solve. So it's a horrible feeling to have that, and I fully understand. I've been involved in these kind of things before. There are so many. I mean, that pipe where you said he just pushed it back into the fitting, it was pouring water out, and he pushed it back in. That suggests that those pipes don't normally let go like that. If they're pushed in properly, they normally stay in there. So whether that was ever connected properly or whether it worked its way loose, but I've not known many of them work their way loose, so the fact all he had to do is push it back in and it stopped the leak, and it's continued to stop the leak. It is a great thing, but there could be other joints under there which are, once the grit, the trouble is if you get those push fit fittings, you surround them with concrete or sand or anything else, and those bits of sand get down inside where the pipe is, down inside the fitting. It only takes a couple of bits of grit to get in there, to come between the O-ring and the pipe. You've got expansion, you've got contraction. So all the time the pipe is working in and out. And if there's any dirt, any debris, and it's pulled down into that joint, then suddenly the O-ring starts leaking. You know, the O-ring may have been fine if it was clean, but as soon as you've got grit in there, it's going to carry on. So the only way to solve that is to dismantle the joint, clean it out, put it back in. But how do you know where the joint is? But we go back to that.
How do you know how many more joints there are like that?
Exactly,
under the
yeah.
floor?
So you know, my favourite way of dealing with these jobs is to bring all the joints above the floor, and then run all the pipes out of a manifold into the various fittings, so that there are no T's under the floor, no joints under the floor. And people say, oh, well, that's a lot of pipe work. But actually, the pipe is the cheapest bit, you know, and you can run it all down. You can control every single circuit. So if you've got a leak on the boiler, if you've got a pressure drop, you just turn off each one by one until you find the one, you eliminate it, find the one that's causing the problem. That's where you are. But with this, you've got no way of telling which one is a possible cause of the problem. But I want to go back to that. What you said was a system boiler, and I told you it's an old boiler, and where the leak could be coming from for that. Now, we did a video some weeks ago, a couple of months ago maybe, about how to find a leak with your eyes closed. I don't know whether you saw that video that we did.
Yeah, that was the one where you put perfume, like cheap perfume.
Absolutely, well done. Yeah, just testing you on it, right? So that now it's funny because some plumbers, what a load of nonsense, what a load of tosh. You know, that can't work. That's a complete myth. But I have actually had quite a lot of success in putting something nice and fragrant inside the system. And like you said, you're paying 500 quid for a leak detection guy to come out. He's putting the gas in there. And I know that company, and they've done some great work. I've been out to some of their jobs, because that gas will find its way through even ceramic tiles. So it's pretty good. But like you say, it's £500 every single time. If they tell you to disconnect a radiator, then it could come back another 500 quid, and so on and so on. But by putting that, anything, like, it doesn't matter what it is, you could put disinfectant in there, but just something aromatic in that system. And then you just leave it and you walk around, and I can normally leave it to the customer to find it, quite honestly. I don't have to stand there sniffing around for the next few hours. I can just say, look, I've put this in, give me a call when you can smell eau de cologne or whatever it is we've put in there, Brut or whatever. The perfume of your choice, my friend, anything you like. But if you put it in there.
So the volume of capacity of that system is, I don't know how many liters. It's a lot.
Honestly, I wouldn't worry about it, because if you
diluted a hell of a lot, so you don't really smell it anymore.
No. It's actually quite surprising how, you know, just get something cheap but something pungent. And I've done it in the past. I mean, I don't like to do it with Jay's fluid, because Jay's fluid the smell isn't great. Once you got it in the house, it kind of lingers forever, you know. But anything like that you can put in there that is a concentrated, you know, smell, will work its way around the system. And it doesn't take, I don't know what your sense of smell is like, but mine's not bad, and a dog's is even better. But if you can, have you got a dog?
No, I'm not yet.
Oh, well, maybe you need to go. But anyway, we got one you can borrow. We can just go around, and it's surprising. I've had this in the past where 2 weeks later, they've just got that whiff. They just walk past somewhere and there's a little whiff. Now, on the outside of your house, where you were just showing us on the ground floor, where you've had the new bedrooms, the new radiators in the bedrooms, is that a suspended wooden floor there?
Is it suspended wooden? Yeah, but the depth of the cavity is tiny. It's probably 3 inches.
There are air bricks outside.
I haven't noticed any, because I was thinking about that myself, and I walked around. I haven't noticed in that area. I haven't noticed any.
Is it still light out there?
Yeah, somewhat.
Can we take a little walk out just so that you?
Yeah, can I just put my shoes on real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And let me just turn the camera around. So
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Put my shoes on.
You're right, Dylan. You're being quiet. You're okay.
I am just monitoring, making sure everything's running smoothly, and
as always.
I've
got a job for Bernie here. Bernie sniff his leak out.
Well, if you fill the system with gravy, he'll be straight onto it.
So there's the front door I just came out of. That was that hallway was just there. That's
Okay.
obviously that is the kitchen. There's an air brick or whatever that is.
Lovely. Yeah.
But that's not in the area we're really concerned about right now.
Okay.
You know, obviously there's the kitchen. I was, behind that kitchen wall. There's the bedroom that I was in where I showed you the cracked chalk.
Yeah.
So if I walk across there, no air bricks.
No.
Like obviously, those are chippings or stone chippings.
Yeah.
There's no air bricks anywhere there, and then it goes all the way down here.
Yeah. Okay.
So no air bricks there.
Yeah. Interesting. So when you go into that bedroom, when you go into that bedroom, it's definitely a wooden floor, is it? When they put
it's a hardwood floor. Under that, they laid really thick plywood, and then under that sits on the joists, and the joists more or less sit on what looks like just, I don't want to say soil, but compacted earth or soil or something.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, the age of the building, that would have been a very common way to do it. That looks like an air brick there, doesn't it? Did you see that one?
That one there?
Oh, the other one. The other one, round the corner, just there.
Yeah.
There's one.
Yeah. But again, those ones are in the kitchen.
The one behind that, there's one behind that lounger, is there? Just there? Behind that lounger? Yep. Okay, so the ground's been built up a little bit high there. Those air bricks should have a little bit more of a chance to do their job, but they're there anyway, those ones. But then along the way, like you say, when you get round to the next bit outside the bedroom, they seem to have disappeared, don't they, completely? Yeah.
Was your strategy, Roger, that if you see air bricks, you can kind of get a camera in there? Is that what your idea was?
There's several things you can do. Well, is the smell thing is the one that I'm really interested in, because if you've got some air bricks and you put some perfume in there or something like that, you can then very often, I know it sounds crazy, but you get down on your hands and knees and you sniff around the air bricks, and if there's a breeze going through the air bricks, you get a little aroma from it. But obviously, if that underfloor area is completely sealed, and you say you've got a hardwood floor on it, then any moisture in there, anything that's in there, is going to be very hard to detect, isn't it? So can we go back to that bedroom where you added that new radiator?
Of course.
Nice house, by the way, apart from all the troubles.
I don't feel that way anymore, to be quite honest. I know this sounds horrible, but I almost feel like just getting rid of this house and moving back to North America. But the thing is, I've just got to calm down and try and sort the problem out and not run away from my problems, I guess. So anyway,
but not a great experience,
No, especially dealing with rogue.
Well, when you said about the travellers, that's a bad experience to have to begin with, isn't it? And
last year, the people who were doing the floor here, the plumbing, the radiators, they were okay. So we hired Polish builders because we like dealing with them for various reasons. They seem to know, most of the time, they seem to know what they're doing. But in this case, it went really pear-shaped, and they were almost holding us ransom for money at the end of every week. We, wrote up a contract. We got them to sign. We'd hand over money, and and if they wouldn't get the money because they were getting money at a faster rate than they were doing work, they would just pack up their tools and leave, and they wouldn't come back until we gave them more money. And that's what we had to deal with for the renovation, unfortunately. You just never know with people when they get upset like that, what kind of work they're doing behind the scenes, and the homeowner's not realizing it. So I don't know.
No, you're dead right. I mean, you get this. I had a similar situation where they came in and they charged this guy 12,000 quid to put these steel joists in. That's all they were doing. Putting the steel, gang of them came down, smashed the place to bits, put the steel joist in, and he said, "I'm not paying 12,000 quid for that." And they said, "Oh yes, you are." because if you don't, you'll come back and your house will be a smouldering ruin, you know. So he just had to pay them to get rid of them, and that was, you know, some of our friends from Albania, but you know, they could be from anywhere. I'm not going to start that, but anyway, it's that kind of thing. You're dealing with crooks, you're dealing with thugs a lot of the time. They're not good tradesmen, but you know, again, it comes down to this thing of getting people on recommendation, doesn't it? But let's have a look at this floor anyway. I'm interested in this floor.
So, matey, everywhere where this hardwood floor is, apart from that bedroom, so about here, the plywood, the thick plywood under it stops here, but everywhere else is thick plywood, and then it sits on the joist. And one of the things the company said that we're planning to come tomorrow is that the only thing that could be impeding on their ability to detect the gas is the gas travels up, it hits the plywood, it forms a curtain, and it has nowhere to travel up because there are no seams or gaps between it. So the gas will then travel down the edges of that plywood and may not come up. So, you know, I mean, what can I do about that? I can't do anything about that. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, you're right, but I'm interested in what the ground levels are like between. In other words, if you measured down from that windowsill, in the inside to the floor, and then measured from the outside down to the ground, I'm reckoning that is almost the same level. In other words, the ground level should be maybe 6 inches below that, and that would give you an opportunity to get an air brick in there to have a look through. You know, we'd cut a hole in the brickwork, we'd have a look through with a camera and just see, you know, and you never know what's under there. But that water is definitely coming out somewhere, isn't it? This is the point. The water is coming out somewhere.
Yeah, and the joists are basically running in this direction, basically. They're running in this direction. And I think my wife, Dorota, has some pictures, albeit very limited pictures of some areas of pipework, but by no means is it everything. It's just maybe, you know, one picture in the hallway of some of the pipework before the plywood was put down. I don't think we have anything from the bedroom. But at this point, I can only assume the leak is either that bedroom, bathroom, that bedroom, or somewhere in the middle of this hallway. The reason is I say middle of the hallway is because I've got a drain guy that I've used before, and he brought his camera on Saturday. He stuck his camera down the end of that area there. Yeah. And we've got another area over here on this end. He sort of stuck it down and snuck it under the floorboard. And he came out as far as 2 meters, maybe 2.5 meters from that wall where the boiler is. He came out 2.5 meters this way, and he came out 2.5 meters that way, and it was bone dry underneath. Was it?
Okay, yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's soaking. Could be soaking wet here in the middle. Yeah. Maybe it's not here. Maybe it's somewhere else.
It's. I mean, what you were saying earlier about floorboards and gaps in floorboards. If you have a lot of moisture, and it does sound like you're losing quite a bit of moisture at a time, you would normally see some movement in the floorboards. Like you say, you would see swelling of a skirting boards or paint peeling off or something. It all looks fairly stable, doesn't it? I mean, apart from those few bits of cork that you showed me where it was splitting away. Now, when we look at you, did you say you got a mega flow upstairs?
Yes. Do you want me to take you to the mega flow?
Yeah, just to complete the picture. You know,
of course.
That's how it is. Give you a bit of exercise here. That looks all right, doesn't it? That all looks nice. There's nothing coming out in the taps in the way of dirty water or anything like that.
No, it's not from the taps or when we have a shower or the tap.
Yeah,
nothing.
It's very, very unusual for you to get any problems with those cylinders. On older cylinders, we do get coils which are leaking, and basically what happens is the water from the central heating system goes through into the cylinder, but you wouldn't get it here because that cylinder's under pressure, and it would probably end up repressurizing the boiler system rather than the other way around. So no,
Yeah,
I just
well,
wanted to look at that just to put my mind, just to complete the picture. But I think we can eliminate that. I don't think there's any problem there.
yeah, I mean,
So,
obviously, the other fact that I keep trying to
yeah,
take into consideration is if the boiler is off at the switch, it's still losing pressure. So then, by default, doesn't that automatically rule out boiler, megaflow, expansion vessel?
yeah. I mean, generally it would. Yeah, the expansion vessel, like you say, would be the thing where if it was heating up and it was losing pressure when it was heating up, it could be
Yeah,
because the expansion vessel was depleted, and therefore the excess water from the boiler being heated up was coming out through the expansion relief valve, the pressure relief valve,
yeah.
which is outside where you identified there going through the wall, and you've checked that there's no water coming out of that, so that's absolutely fine. And it all points towards it being under the floor, doesn't it? So
Yeah, I mean, I topped up that boiler maybe half an hour before I jumped on the call with you. It's whatever time it's been now, it's lost 0.6 of a bar of pressure already.
That's it.
Yeah, it was 1.5. It's about 0.9, and what happens is when it gets to around 0.8, boiler cuts out at that point.
If I'd been called out to look at this job, I would probably isolate the underfloor, the heating circuit. I'd isolate the heating circuit. The motorized valve would probably do one side of it, but I would probably just cap it off, and I would pressure test it. I would pump it up to about 6 bar and just see what was happening. In other words, I'd isolate the boiler from the heating system and look at those as two separate things. And at that point, you're going to be able to eliminate, taking it circuit by circuit by circuit. You're going to find out which circuit is losing pressure, because at the moment it's losing pressure, but you don't know whether it's losing it on the underfloor, on the radiators, or somewhere else. And
but Roger, with the type of circuitry we have or plumbing that we have, is it conceivable that one can actually isolate the underfloor heating? Because can you tell which pipes are going to the underfloor heating? And
you would have to take it from where it says the motorized valve to the underfloor heating. But there's a danger there, because if the returns were all being shared, in other words, when they were bringing the water back, if they hooked it into the radiator system, then you wouldn't be able to get a clean circuit to test. But it's that kind of thing. But I would really start. You said the guys are coming tomorrow to have a look at it.
Well, the guys that are coming tomorrow is another leak detection company called ADI Pro Leak. I am absolutely bricking it here, because it's, by the end of tomorrow it'll be £1,000 down and maybe even no further forward. And at that point, what I'm trying to prepare for is plan B or plan C, which is, let's say this time tomorrow they've come and gone. They can't pick it up anywhere. I need to know what to do next. And, being naive, uneducated homeowner, not knowing, I'm useless with DIY. I rely on someone who knows their stuff, and I can sort of trust to say, okay, Charles, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this for you first. We're going to try this, then we're going to do this. And then just kind of take the bull by the horns and do it without trying to con a customer, so to speak.
Yeah. I know you want results. You don't want to have your pocket emptied every time. And in the past, I have said to people, look, I won't charge you if I can't find it. I'm not going to charge you. But I've become a poor man doing that kind of thing. Really.
Yeah, I understand.
It's not a great strategy for a business, but it's the way that I feel. But whereabouts are you? Just give us a rough idea in the country.
Sure. Of course, I'm in Datchet, Berkshire, which is right next door to Eton and next door to Windsor, next door to Slough, those sort of areas. But I'm in Datchet, basically.
Okay, all right. Well, look, what we'll do is we'll get back. We'll have another chat with you. Maybe not on Zoom, maybe just a phone call or whatever.
Okay.
Tomorrow, when the guy has
come and gone.
Come and gone, and see how much he can find out. But I'm thinking it. Okay, if I don't know anybody around that area, Datchet, I'm just trying to think who I know. But leave it with me. If it may well be. I mean, my wife will kill me for saying this because she wants me to finish our house off. But it may be that I can come out and have a look at it and just have a sniff around. I mean, that would be my my chosen thing. But let's see how that guy goes tomorrow. But like you say, it is a mess. And when I look at all that pipe work, you know, that is straight away, any plumber that looks at pipe work like that, he kind of knows who's been there. And, you know, it's not great. It's, you know, that pipe is so easy to use, but people just make such a mess. Rather than clipping it, keeping everything ordered, they just push it all together. You've got no idea where anything's. A felt tip pen on the pipe just saying this circuit's this, that circuit's that would have saved so many people so much. You know,
it's just common sense, isn't it? Really, Roger?
Well, you know, I like it when they've got the other bits been labelled up. And what I used to do with people is just to give them a little drawing of a system and a little thing of this is where you turn this water off, this is where you turn that water off, because it just makes life so much easier for the householder in an emergency, but also any plumber that's going to come along afterwards, you know. But, you know, it really ought to be the standard, but we are terrible. I mean, you know, whereabouts in Canada were you, by the way?
I was in a small English town called Oakville, which is right next door to Toronto.
Oh, right. Nice.
You know, I guess the thing I missed most about it is we bought a house there and we've renovated it throughout, and we've dealt with so many trades, and we've never, ever had any problems with people trying to rip you off. You know, Canadians generally are very honest, truthful people. It's inbred into their culture. That's a very friendly, and they always go out. They go the extra mile, and that you don't see that anymore in Britain anymore. Britain has changed, unfortunately, and it's turned into a rat race where everyone's struggling to make ends meet, and so, you know, they're just trying to say, how can I earn the next £500 or £1,000? How can I, you know? And it's just it's penetrated into the workforce, into the trades, and we're feeling it on the back end of it. And the other thing is, in North America, the heating systems in homes, although you might disagree, I really prefer, because it's a sort of hot air furnace system.
I know once, there
are problems with that, but I've never either experienced it myself or amongst all my friends and peers, no one has ever complained of hot air. You don't have these leak problems. You don't have these constant valves and diverters, and there's too much complexity with our central heating systems here. So, well, it is what it is. So I think I've got to work with what we have and try and make good of it. I'm sure if it's working well and it's designed well, and as you say, it's labeled and every component is put together correctly, I'm sure it works tickety-boo, but that's not our experience so far.
You know, that it's one of those things. There aren't systems. They aren't designed. They're people coming in, cobbling together, shoving in this bit, shoving in that bit. Sometimes they understand what they're doing. Sometimes they don't. And of course, everybody's got their own idea. And no, I'm completely with you. I think you gave a very fair analysis of it. I wouldn't, you know, want to diss all tradesmen in this country. I think there are some great ones, some fantastic ones. I know some fantastic ones. I work with some of them, and they are out there. But among that are also a lot of people who you can only describe as feral, really. And it's a great shame. But, you know, I know what you're saying about the Canadians. They are super polite generally, you know, wonderful people. And it's such a shame that you come from that, what I would call the civilized world, into this pit where we're at now, you know. But, you know, I despair, and a lot of tradesmen despair as well, because they have to go around and look at all this stuff and try and put it right and so on. So, you know, you don't want our sympathy. What you want is some results. So let's see what we can do. Let's see how you get on tomorrow. And if you can't get anywhere tomorrow, then it might just be that we'll come out there and have a look at it and, as I say, have a sniff around, you know.
Roger, whereabouts are you based, matey?
I'm in Surrey. It's not a million miles from Datchet. I mean, I come over there, you know, it's not. But
30 minutes away, yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, the biggest problem I got is that my wife is really on my case. She's saying, I don't want you going out doing all these jobs. I want you to finish this house. You've been working on it for goodness knows how many years. Everyone else has got a lovely bathroom. Why haven't I? So I'm kind of, but things like this, just you know, I can see there's a huge challenge to be had there. So you know, let's see what we can do. But start with that. I'm intrigued about this underfloor area as well. Do some measurements on that and see if there's anything. I would. It's very unlikely that they would have built that house without air bricks under that floor. So I'm just wondering if the ground levels have been built up, if all that shingle that's been put in is covering up some air bricks. And that's where I would get my little camera in, have a look in there, see what's going on, because I don't like it. Obviously, it's like you say, you're losing water and it's going somewhere. So anyway, we'll meet again. It's good to meet you. I'm sorry it's under such circumstances, but
it's an absolute honor and pleasure to meet you, Roger. And thank you immensely for arranging this and being on the call with us. And
well,
I'll keep my fingers crossed that there is a positive outcome tomorrow. And were there not to be, then I'll connect with you, the two of you, and hopefully you can help us in some capacity. I'll take whatever I can get, to be quite honest. And of course, I want to compensate you accordingly for your time and your efforts. So thank you immensely.
Okay, we'll see how that goes. And I've got to say, you did a great job on the filming, because sometimes we'll get people who can't direct the camera in the right place. So I'm sure Dylan appreciates that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That was some good camera work there, Charles. You're flicking from front to back, holding it very steady. You can join the team as a cameraman.
Yeah.
So
if all else fails, I'll join the BBC and maybe have to get into filming.
That's right. You can join the Rogue Traders team.
Yeah, I'd love that. Anyway, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Okay. Appreciate it, and I'll connect with you regardless tomorrow. Once these guys have left.
So sadly, I didn't get round to seeing Charles in time, and before I got there, he got another leak detection company in to have a look at the problem. And what the guy did is he drained the system down and he put some compressed air through the system to clear the water out so that he could put his leak detection gas into the system. And while he was running the compressed air through the system to clear the water away, he heard a hissing, and he listened, and he heard it was under the floor, and he dug the floor up, and what he found underneath was a couple of pipes with ball fix valves on them, and the ball fix valve was just open and spraying water out. So that had been going on for ages and ages. All those people in the past who had been round there were obviously trying to find it one way or another, but it turned out that in this case it wasn't his nose, it wasn't the leak detection gas, it was simply listening for that hiss. So there you are. That's another idea. If you've got a leak on a system, providing it's large enough, then maybe a little bit of air through it is going to be the answer.